Okay, so we're going to do a deep dive today into some NBA games.
All right.
Some recent results that you flagged for me. I think 5 matchups in particular that you thought were really compelling and worth taking a closer look at. And the goal here is not to just recap who won and lost, but to
Yeah.
really get into like how those wins happened,
Right.
and what they might tell us going forward.
Exactly.
And we're working from a recap that details these specific games. And I got to say, like, even just reading through this thing, it's hinting at like a lot more of the story.
Yeah, going through it, each matchup kind of has its own narrative that you can really pull from just beyond the box score itself. So we're going to try to like tease that out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the recap even uses phrases like electrifying performances
Mm,
and unexpected twists, and that's kind of the level that we want to get to.
for sure.
So let's jump right in. First game, we've got Los Angeles Lakers versus the San Antonio Spurs. Lakers took this one 125 to 109. When you look past the final score, what really stood out to you here?
Well, the recap really highlighted the Lakers' offense as being unstoppable, and I think when you look a little deeper at some of the numbers, their assist numbers in this game were really, really high.
Yeah.
So that speaks to like a really cohesive offensive attack.
Right.
It wasn't just individual brilliance, it was very much a team effort.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, LeBron James racks up another triple-double.
Of course.
Uh, the source emphasizes his versatility and leadership, which, I mean, yeah, at this point, it's almost expected, but it's still kind of the engine that drives a lot of what they do.
For sure.
He's not just scoring; he's he's controlling the tempo.
Exactly. And then down low, you got Anthony Davis really being a difference maker in the paint. The recap mentions his rebounds and blocks as being huge.
Right.
And, when you look at the rebounding battle, the Lakers significantly out-rebounded the Spurs. So you know that limits second chance opportunities. AD's presence down there is a huge deterrent for sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the two stars. The source makes a point of calling out the pivotal role of the Lakers bench, specifically Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura. I mean, it seems like when those guys are clicking and really contributing, it takes so much pressure off of LeBron and AD.
Yeah, and it allows them to maintain a really high level of play throughout the game because the other team can't necessarily exploit a weakness when those guys go to the bench.
Right.
So that depth is huge for them.
Yeah, so you put all that together, the ball movement, the star power, the paint control, the bench production. What's the key takeaway from this Lakers win for you?
I think the recap really summed it up by, saying that this win solidifies the Lakers' position as a formidable contender. I think that depth and cohesion is really the recipe for sustained success.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Portland Trail Blazers versus the Washington Wizards. Blazers won this one 112-97, and this one felt like it had a little bit of a different flavor from the recap at least.
Yeah, for sure. Damian Lillard's scoring, I think, is always going to be a point of discussion, but the recap really focused on the Trailblazers' rock-solid defense as being the key to victory in this one,
Okay.
which is interesting because, we often associate them with their offensive firepower, so to see them really lock in on the defensive end, I think speaks to their potential.
Yeah, and the details back that up. They highlight Jusuf Nurkic dominating the boards,
Yeah.
which again, controlling that rebounding battle is just so fundamental. It limits possessions for the other team. It creates more opportunities for you. And then they call out Jerami Grant's perimeter defense,
Yeah.
which, suggests that they were effective at kind of shutting down the Wizards' outside shooting.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see a team that, we usually associate with offense win a game with their defense.
Right.
It suggests a level of versatility and adaptability that could serve them really well in a playoff series.
Yeah.
So, if they can bring that defensive intensity alongside, Dame's scoring, they're going to be tough to beat.
Absolutely. So the key takeaway here is that this win boosts the Blazers' playoff hopes and shows their potential to maybe disrupt some of those, higher seeded teams.
Yeah, for sure. A team that can win in multiple ways is always a threat.
All right, next up, we've got the Sacramento Kings versus the Memphis Grizzlies. This was a high-scoring one. Kings took it 132 to 122. The recap describes their performance as high energy and a spectacle.
Yeah, and right away they point to De'Aaron Fox's speed and agility as being like a huge factor in breaking down the Grizzlies' defense. His ability to get into the paint and kind of collapse the defense really opens things up for everybody else.
Right. And then, in the paint, you've got Sabonis providing that presence with both scoring and playmaking.
Yeah, he's such a skilled passer for a big man. Really allows that offense to flow.
Yeah, it's a great inside-outside combo there with Fox.
Right, and the Kings bench gets a mention as well. Malik Monk and Davion Mitchell both put up some big numbers in this one. It seems like, these teams with the strong bench play are really the ones that are finding consistent success.
Yeah. It's interesting how that keeps coming up, you
Yeah.
know? It seems like that reliable scoring off the bench is a huge ingredient for winning in this league.
Yeah, takes a lot of pressure off the starters.
Yeah. So what's the big picture takeaway for the Kings after this offensive explosion?
Well, the recap suggests that this victory underscores the Kings' ability to compete with top-tier teams and positions them as, a potential dark horse in the playoff race.
I like that.
Yeah, their high energy style combined with, that production from their key players and their bench makes them a team that can really just outscore opponents. And that's, a dangerous proposition come playoff time.
All right, let's shift gears to a Western Conference battle here. Denver Nuggets versus the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. Nuggets won 114-105. This feels like a matchup with a little bit of a rivalry already kind of built in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the source really puts an emphasis on the Nuggets' teamwork and precision being like a key factor in their win.
Right. It wasn't just about individual brilliance. It was about how well they executed their game plan as a unit. And I think, at the heart of that is Nikola Jokic. His playmaking skills are really what kind of orchestrates that whole offense.
Yeah.
He's just got such a unique ability to control the game without, necessarily having to be the leading scorer. His vision, his passing are truly exceptional.
But when they needed those points, Jamal Murray apparently steps up with some clutch shooting in the fourth quarter to kind of seal the deal.
Yeah, and that confidence and that execution in those key moments is what separates the contenders from the pretenders. You need guys who aren't afraid to take and make those big shots.
Yeah, it's interesting that the recap notes that the Warriors, despite Steph Curry doing his thing, struggled to contain the Nuggets' offensive flow. I mean, it really speaks to how well the Nuggets were moving the ball and finding those open looks. Even a great individual scorer like Curry, you can only do so much if they can't get stops on the other end.
Exactly.
So what does this win tell us about the Nuggets as we look ahead to the playoffs?
I think it reinforces the Nuggets' status as a powerhouse in the Western Conference.
Okay.
It solidifies, their focus on making a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
They're showing that they can beat quality opponents, through their system and their execution, which is, a very promising sign for their aspirations.
All right, last one. Let's break down the Phoenix Suns versus the Toronto Raptors. Pretty decisive victory for the Suns, 129-89. The recap describes it as a masterclass in both offense and defense. That's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah, it is. But it's hard to argue with when you look at the firepower they have with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Those two are an unstoppable, high-scoring duo when they're clicking and playing in sync.
Yeah.
They just present an almost impossible challenge for defenses.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the perimeter scoring that was working for them. The source calls out DeAndre Ayton's dominance in the paint, providing those second-chance points and defensive stops.
Yeah, so you have like a balanced attack. Inside and outside threats performing at a high level, it makes them incredibly difficult to defend.
The recap notes that the Raptors struggled to find their rhythm with turnovers and missed opportunities.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Suns' intensity on both ends of the floor was just disruptive to their game plan.
Yeah, when a team is performing at that level on both offense and defense, as the Suns seem to be in this game, it can be very overwhelming for the opponent. So, the Raptors' struggles probably stemmed from that constant pressure that Phoenix was applying. Forcing turnovers, forcing them into contested shots.
Right. So the key takeaway here seems pretty clear-cut.
Yeah, this commanding win highlights the Suns' championship aspirations. Their ability to dominate opponents. It sends a message to the rest of the league, for sure.
Okay, so we look back at these 5 games, and we saw some really distinct strengths on display. The Lakers showed their depth. The Blazers showed their defensive commitment. The Kings brought that high-octane energy. The Nuggets showed their teamwork, and the Suns just put on an offensive clinic.
Yeah, and as the recap points out, these results don't just impact the standings. They really set the stage for, exciting matchups in the coming weeks.
Right.
You can already start to envision those potential playoff battles based on these performances and the styles of play that we've seen.
And while we did cover some of the key aspects highlighted in the recap, it did mention that there's a lot more to delve into when it comes to the stats and strategies that define these games. It really makes the point that there's layers of analysis beyond just the final score.
Yeah, there's so many things you can look at. Possession numbers, shooting percentages from different areas of the floor. You can look at defensive efficiency ratings. There's just so much data out there that can really provide deeper insights into why these games played out the way they did.
So as you consider, these results and the distinct strengths that each of these winning teams showcased, what potential future matchups are you most intrigued by? And what specific, team strategies do you think will be most crucial in determining the outcomes of those games? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the kind of thinking that really goes beyond the box score and gets to the heart of, what makes this game so compelling.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Same pleasure.
Always great to break down these games with you.
Absolutely.
All right, catch you next time.
Sounds good.